Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Sorry, I can't stay for long.
Tafadali,
Um,
bismillah.
but I just thought I just had a couple of comments. I may not be able to get to the topic too much, but I just wanted to make a couple of comments because I know last time you did speak respectfully when we spoke.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say that I know that a lot of the girls that do come here are quite young, for example, and they get a lot of stick, especially in your comments as well, and a lot of hate. But I think equally there's a lot of young boys that come on in the comments and also on your lives. And you can tell that I'm sure you can tell that there's a certain level of immaturity, even if they are bigging you up. So I think it's unfair to completely kind of derail the girls just because they're young and they're against you. And
Who derailed the girls? I don't understand. In the comment section.
in the comments, and also just just some of the comments that are made that
When I'm doing the live, Sadia, I don't look at the comments, so I can't speak for the comments.
No, but even the way that sometimes you respond to them is quite. I mean, I know they're young and they may be immature in their speech, but it's not respectful to be rude to them, Whereas,
Sister, look, if you're prepared to give it, you must be prepared to take it. I don't know how old the people are in my comments. It's their responsibility. If they're going to come into a live, it really doesn't matter how old you are, because I don't know. I see a username. I don't see an age. So if you're going to make a comment, I will address the comment, period.
Okay. But the other thing I want to say is that you must have noticed that a lot of the guys that are your supporters are very young and they do sound quite immature in their tone. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because I've seen that, people like me and a lot of the people that are a bit more mature, they probably see your posts on TikTok and they just scroll away. They just don't agree and they scroll. But a lot of the people that are attracted to the narratives that you say are mainly the guys that are young.
Sadia, if you have a rebuttal, bring it. As you know, the topic of this discussion today is the more successful a woman becomes, the more difficult it is for her to find a marital partner.
And I will get
do you agree or disagree with that point now?
Sorry, the more successful a woman is?
The more successful a woman becomes in her career, the more difficult it is for her to find a marital partner. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
I do agree to some extent. I do agree. I do believe that women do want to marry upwards.
So what's the problem then, sister?
The problem that I do want to address is that some of the messages that are being sent out to a lot of the young males that are following you. And I think you do have a responsibility to share a positive message to them.
Sister, look, this is my job. My job is this, to share the truth. I cannot be held to account for who follows me and who doesn't. That's like football fans at a stadium who, kill other football fans and then blaming the players on the pitch. The players on the pitch perform. If they rile up the fans to the point where they kill another fan, well, the player can't be held responsible just because he performed well on the pitch.
No, but I think the problem is that you're rallying people around against something that potentially is not beneficial.
Okay, what's not beneficial? Let's talk about that. That's more beneficial.
Yeah, sure. I'd like to. I think definitely, the sunnah of having 4 wives. I'm not a feminist. I've never claimed to be. So, I know that is a part of the religion, and we can't, as Muslim women, we can't deny that. But I think a lot of the people that do follow you are just guys that are generally unmarried, perhaps not even educated to degree level, for example, and they love, the last caller or the one before that said, bro, like, you're speaking facts, etc., etc. They're young people that perhaps are just appealed by the fact that.
Sadia, if so far we have only agreed, me and you, in terms of the meat and bones of the discussion. With that being the case, what's the problem? So what if they're uneducated? If the message is sound and you agree with me, we don't have an issue.
No, because I think the message should be that these young people, they should be looking, if they should be looking at their deen in the sense that, inshallah they are, but we should be encouraging them that, look, are you actually completing your obligations? And I know for you're saying this isn't your message, but I think you're choosing the message that rallies, not necessarily the best quality of people or fans around you, and that's very easy to do. But if you actually say them, and I know you have.
Sister, every single movement rallies people around them that are not the best quality. Islam has some of the most radical people rallying around it. You can't hold Islam accountable.
Yes, but that's not the fault of Islam. That's the fault of people with
Barakallahu fik. That's not the fault of Islam. That's the fault of the people who choose their actions. Jazakallah khair. Is there any other question I can help you with, Sadia?
Yeah, I would also say that before, you go around you know, encouraging people to, you know, look into the sunnah of having 4 wives, is we should also, and I know you are practicing, so this is why I'm only raising this because I know it will resonate with you, is that we should also say that they, you know, we've spoken about this before, that character is important. Also, are they keeping up with their obligations before they look at the sunnah? You know, the obligation of performing Hajj is a very expensive thing to do. Before you look at, you know, building yourself a high net worth to support 4 women, are you able to go for Hajj? Are you able to prioritize your wealth in that way first?
Okay. I
Okay.
mean, these are all valid and good points, which I
I
accept.
think,
Barakallah khair.
and then I think also when it comes to, you know, things about single women and things like that, like I said, I'm not biased in that sense. I'm married, I'm not feminist, you know, don't come from that emotional perspective or anything like that. But I think a lot of the statistics that you use, again, they are statistics that are not relevant to the Muslim community.
Give me an example.
I'll give you an example. If, you know, there are many studies that say that men that are abusive in past relationships will continue to be abusive in future relationships.
Okay.
But we know that that may be speaking about, you know, a majority of men who may not be Muslim, who may drink, who may be involved in drugs, who may be involved in casual relationships.
What about the women who have been abusive in past relationships? Are they likely to continue their abuse in future relationships?
That's my point, is that the people, the statistics that are being used are used for people that do not practice Islam.
My
And the
point,
same,
my question to you is that same point you mentioned, that a man who has been abusive in the past is likely to continue. Sounds quite logical, by the way. Surely that would be the same for women, would it not?
yeah, I mean, if we're looking at non-Muslims, then potentially yes.
No. This is not a Muslim thing. This is a behavioral thing. I agree with you. A man who has been abusive in the past is likely to continue that behavior. Just as people who get locked up in prison, I can't remember what the repeat number of inmates who go back to prison is, but it's very high. It's very high. It's a behavioral thing, but it swings both ways.
I agree, but
domestic violence is almost 50-50. Did you know that? 60% of all domestic violence cases are carried out by men. That means 40%, the remaining 40, is carried out by women.
brother,
It's nearly equal, sister. So what's your point?
But that's not my point. What I'm saying is that you can use statistics either way, exactly like you've just identified. And similarly, with when it comes to single mothers, I think you picked this up, and I was happy with this, that you picked this up with a young speaker that had she said that, you know, I think her mother had a series of relationships, and she has been, you know, not traumatized by it. And I think one of the messages that you said there that I agreed with, and I think you should speak more of, is the fact that you can work to correct yourself, just in the way that you said that you are doing so yourself. So these statistics in Islam, we always look for self-improvement.
So it sounds like you're saying you want me to provide more of a hope-based message.
Yeah, and I know you have that in you. I feel like sometimes your kind of more aggressive tone comes out more, and I know that deep down from some of the messages that I've heard you say before, you do agree that people who want to change themselves, they can. And that's not to say that all, you know, women that you know, have been raised by a single mother have that issue.
What I would say is this, on the topic of change, Sadia. Your name's Sadia, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, on the topic of change, is that whenever someone comes onto the live, it's according to what they feed me will dictate what I feed back to them. So if they come onto the live and say to me, it wasn't my fault, it was his fault, and so on and so forth, I am going to bring the whole house crashing down on them. But like that sister who came on and said, you know what, I hold my hands up, it's had some damage, immediately I can connect with that, because I'm the first one to acknowledge and accept that I have made, you know, big mistakes in my past. I've had to come to terms with that and accept that I was 100% responsible. So when I see someone taking 100% responsibility, then I feed them the message of hope. But for the rest, and they are a majority of people who don't want to take accountability, they don't want to take responsibility, there's no hope for them, Sadia. None at all. They will repeatedly take the victim mindset and have the same issues in future relationships over and over. If I took the mentality, Sadia, that the reason why I struck one of my wives when I was previously married was because she was this, that, and the other, if I truly took that mentality and believed it, do you know what would happen? I'd hit my current wife right now, because it's never my fault. It's always she did this and she said that and she provoked the other. It's never my fault, which means I will be a repeat offender. And I have for those people, there is no hope. None at all.
No, I know, but I think it's a damaging message to say that they are, there's no hope and there's doomed. I think what would be a
No,
better
but
message.
Sadia, there is no hope. If you don't take responsibility for your actions, you have no hope. Period.
But then let's see, how is success defined in Islam? Is it really to do with you going on and having a future partner? Not necessarily.
We're not
Where,
talking about success right now. We're
no,
talking
no,
about domestic
I
violence.
would like, to just make this point, please, because if we're talking about success in Islam, it's nothing to do with you having a successful marriage. You can be single and be successful. And secondly, when it comes
Sadia,
to
hold on, Sadia. We need that's a real disconnect. What's the connection between the domestic violence and this now? Like we have to conclude the domestic violence.
there is a connection, and the connection that I'm trying to make is that you can use these statistics. Okay, you can use these statistics, but that takes into consideration people that use drink, drugs, have casual relationships, and to the majority of your viewers and myself, and the Muslims majority, it doesn't. Those attributes and those statistics do not apply to us. So where those
No,
statistics
no, no.
saying,
Sadia, I'm sorry, you're wrong. When it comes to domestic violence in the Muslim community is, I don't want to say worse, but it's just as bad as in the non-Muslim community. You know why? Because they take that verse out of the Quran out of context. The verse where Allah says, and beat your wives if they misbehave. Yeah, we have just as bad a problem with domestic violence as the non-Muslims do, if not worse. So I'm sorry, I disagree with that.
I don't,
I mean, it sounds
maybe,
like in your experience, you haven't experienced that. Alhamdulillah, you have a good man,
maybe
you have a good husband.
maybe in previous generations, but I do think things are actually being a lot more, people are being a lot more introspective, and they are learning more about the deen, and they are realizing, and I think there are a lot of people in our generation, thankfully, alhamdulillah, who are a lot more well versed in how each spouse should treat each other. And like I said, I'm not, there is a connection between what I'm saying, and that's basically that, in Islam, there is no degradation of single parents, single mothers, and divorcees. There is degradation of hitting a fellow Muslim, harming another Muslim.
So
There
are you
is
telling me a sister who's been divorced 5 times is this just as valuable in the eyes of men as a woman who's never been married and never been divorced?
But this is the difference between us. I'm talking from a position of what the dean says, and you're talking about a
So
position
okay,
from
so
what
from a
from what
position of the deen,
society
are they
says.
the same? Are they just as desirable?
From in the dean?
Well, deen and society is
Well,
connected. The
if
deen is
if
not like
our
this alien thing. I mean,
if
think
our
about it. Is a
if our
woman who's been
prophet in
divorced
this
five
if
times
our
just as desirable as a woman who's never been married before?
I'm sorry, but if our prophet sallallahu alaihi
Allah.
wasallam married divorced women, and the
Okay.
Sahabi did as well, then I mean, what does that say to you?
Okay. How many children do you have, Sadia?
None at the moment.
Okay. Would you like to have children one day?
I don't really want to make this personal, but of course,
Okay,
inshallah.
let's inshallah ta'ala. So let's imagine you have a son. Inshallah, one day you have a son. Okay. Would you be happy for your son who comes home one day and says to you, Mom, I found this lovely sister. He's 21 years old. He's just finished his degree, your son. He's ready to take on the world. Alhamdulillah. He's looking like he's on the up. And he brings home a sister to you and he says to you, Mom, there's this woman, I've fallen in love with her. I really want to marry her, but she's been divorced 5 times. How do you feel?
I would feel exact, and I know you, the thing is, Mahdi, and I will answer this. Just give me 1 second. The thing is, you are tainted very much by your experience. I have to say.
Sadia, just answer the question. It's
Yeah,
your son now.
okay,
How
let me
do you
answer.
feel? He's getting married for the first time, and he's brought you home a woman who has been divorced 5 times. How do you feel?
I feel that I would like to meet the lady, of course.
So
But
hold on. You'd be happy for your son to marry a woman who's been divorced 5 times.
if she has changed her life around, and like the brother before said, that if she is on her deen, she's changed her life around, I am no one to judge, and
And
nor are
how would
you,
we know
nor
that
are
she's
you,
changed her life
nor are
around? How
you.
would we know that?
Because you can tell by a person how, just the way that you have turned your life around, and you would like people to think the best of you. I would like to think the best of my fellow Muslim brothers and
So,
sisters.
okay, would you say to your son, look, I'm willing to consider her, but I would prefer for you to marry someone who's never been married before? Would that be a conversation?
Well, if I have raised my son in a way that I trust him and I trust his decisions, then I will trust the decision that he's making, and inshallah, you will raise them with the right.
Sadia, you're dodging a bullet here. We both know what your
I
answer
would not
would be.
tell him no, just based on
I'm
the
not
fact.
saying you'd say no, but you can't deny it. Be truthful. Allah says in the Quran, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, qulu qawlan sadida. Speak the truth, Sadia. What would your heart prefer? For your son to marry the divorcee of 5, or for your son to marry the woman who's never been married before? Speak the truth, Sadia.
Well, if he's not been married, then obviously you would want someone similar. But that doesn't mean, again, you're giving. We spoke about this
So
last time.
immediately, Sadia, we can see that the one who's been married multiple times doesn't have the same value as the one who hasn't been.
No, because if the one who's been married multiple times has better character than one that's not been married, I would choose 1,000 times over.
Akid, I'm sure, but all other things being equal, character, so on and so forth.
But this is the problem, Mahdi, and this is the other thing that I still want to discuss, is that you put people in a corner when you realize that they're winning their argument.
Sadia, what? Sadia, what are you?
You do, brother.
Sadia, I don't put you in a corner. What I do is I create easy to understand examples, and what you're in cognitive dissonance right now, and that is, if you agree with me, your argument collapses. That's the problem with cognitive dissonance.
I'm telling you, if her character, I'm telling you, I disagree with you. If her character is better than the unmarried woman, I would 1,000 times pick her over. She may have learned from her experiences.
Okay, so
just the way that you have learned from your experiences. We have to give our brothers and sisters the benefit of the doubt.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Sadia. Sister Sadia, I'm going to try and bring someone else, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Appreciate it.
Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum.